So, hey guys, I'm just logging on here to update you on my life. It's true, October's over and I'm like really struggling to understand that it's like really over and it's like the holiday season now. Every night I'm still dreaming that it's Halloween, but I do have one coping skill that has been keeping me through, and that's watching Thanksgiving horror movies. So that's what I've been doing. So today I watched a little movie called Blood Freak. Let me give you the rundown on Blood Freak. It came out in 1972. Our main guy is Herschel. He helps a little lady on the side of the road who gets broke down, so she takes him home. Come to find out, he's a veteran who's out of work right now. And so I think her dad, works at a poultry farm. He's like, hey, you can come work on my poultry farm for me.
That's easy. I could use a husky man like you out at my poultry ranch if you can wait till next week.
And then she's like, this is my sister, but don't be tempted by her because she does drugs. And he was like, what? Marijuana? And she's like, no, she does other drugs too.
A lot of them are heavy into the drug scene.
You mean they smoke pot?
And then, they meet, and Anne, the sister, is head over heels for some Herschel. She loves her some Herschel.
Say, this is gonna be some night.
I think I better go with Angel.
Boy, what kind of a dope are you?
Anyways, while he's hanging out, doing work for the Pops, the little sister Anne, she's coming out in her bikini by the pool, and she's flirting. Can I help you? Can I help you with your job?
Want me to show you? I've been waiting for the chance.
No, thanks. I can manage.
Boy, what a dumbass you are.
And then she has her little Band-Aid box, and tucked away at the bottom of her Band-Aid box is a little joint that she had bought the night before, specifically for Herschel. And so she starts smoking, he disapproves, and she's like, oh, come on. How can such a hunk of a man be such a coward?
How can such a big hunk of man be such a damn coward?
That's just how you gotta get men to do what you want. You just gotta threaten their masculinity.
I'm not a coward.
He gives in, smokes a little bit of that pot, they get the gigglies, and have a good time. So then, the next day, the hard-working man he is, he's on the poultry farm, and then he gets talking to from these scientists in the poultry turkey lab, I guess. And they're like, hey, part of the job, if you want, you could be in experiments. And he's like, is this safe? And they're like, oh yeah, it's government regulated.
Not dangerous at all. It's just a government regulation that the meat must be tested. Just for the records. Sure.
But you don't have to do it. I guess he ends up doing it because we see him eating turkey, and he has a whole turkey to himself. He eats it, and then he goes back to his job, and things don't go so well for him. The turkey isn't settling into his stomach right. And he has a full-blown freak down. So then he wakes up and he's got a turkey for a head. So then he goes back to his girl Anne and he scares her. She's like, ah! And then she faints, and then she wakes up and he writes down it's me, Herschel.
Herschel?
And then she's like, oh my god, and she's so upset, but then he turns out the lights and he starts making love to her, and she's like, oh, Herschel.
Oh my god.
So now she's on Team Turkey-Headed Herschel. Did I mention his head is a turkey? find out, she's like talking to all the drug dealers. They're like, I cannot keep up with this supply, because after he had his one joint smoke, he got addicted to dope, and he was like beating up the drug dealer like, I need my supply of dope.
If you don't keep me supply, I'm gonna break every bone in your miserable body.
Also, there's a narrator I didn't mention, but there's a narrator who's like narrating all this, smoking a cigarette and like looking down, reading his script.
The other's the opposite. Or is she? Who are we to judge? It's strange how many people will argue interpretations of the Bible. Herschel has much to be grateful for.
Then he goes like all blood freak, you know. She's talking to all her boys like, yeah, like I just don't know how to keep up with like how many joints he's like smoking in a day.
I'd expect us to manage, keep up a supply with a habit like his.
And then he's over there just like slaughtering and stringing up every single person he comes across and drinking their blood into his little beakling. And that's a lot of the movie, but then he wakes up and it was all just like a hallucination. And the scientist boss is talking to him and he's like, hey, like, you ever take any other drugs? He's like, I can't believe my scientist, like, I told them not to experiment on you when I'm not here. Like, what's up?
Told them not to conduct any experiments unless I was here. Are you all right?
He's like, yeah, I'm a war vet and I was on painkillers, but then I just started getting addicted to marijuana. And then he's like, oh my gosh, the scientist says this. He says, oh my gosh, like, the marijuana must have mixed with the turkey chemicals.
What must have happened, my laboratory men used him in an experiment, not knowing that he was an addict.
And he's like, don't worry, I'll call Angel. And Angel's the girl that he originally helped, who was broken down on the side of the road. Well, you know, I didn't mention, but she's like a Jesus freak. She works at like a drug help center, and he calls her.
I was afraid of something like that happening. Is he able to ride his bike?
And she's like, okay, let me tell my sister Anne. And so Angel tells Anne.
Something about finding him passed out, hallucinating on drugs again.
Oh no, Angel, no.
She's like to Anne, do you want to pick him up? Like, what do you want to do? Because he can't drive his bike. Because if I didn't mention this already, Herschel, he's an easy rider, okay? He rides around on that motorcycle, but not in this state. It is not safe to do drugs and ride.
You're in no shape to ride that bike.
So Anne ultimately is like, no, I'm not comfortable. I just feel so guilty for giving him that joint. And she's like, don't worry, Anne. I'll let him know how much you love him. And so then Angel goes to pick him up and she's like, Anne just wants to let you know that she just feels so guilty for getting you, like, addicted to marijuana. She had no way of knowing that you were addicted before.
Why?
Herschel, she didn't understand that you were already addicted.
And he's like, I know she loves me. And then the narrator comes back and he's like, this is why you don't want to mix chemicals in the human body. Let's get our happy ending.
Making our own story have a happy ending.
And then we just see a little sweet scene of Anne running up on a pier to kiss Herschel. And that's the end. Was that a 30-second recap? First things first, we need to talk about the turkey in the room. The turkey head. Okay. So, originally I was like, I'm gonna love this fucking turkey head because yes, I think it's on the poster of this movie, they kind of showed the turkey face. So I kind of saw a little glimpse before the movie really started. If this blood freak was made today, you know, it'd just be like a shitty old CGI turkey face man. But no, they like made the mask out of paper mache, and it had like real feathers on it, and all that was cool. And I know it's like a low budget horror movie, but I mean, they didn't have me as an artiste. But you know what? I'm not even like that great of an artist, and I feel like I could have made a better mask. Just saying. The mask is really cool and scary, but then, you know, after the first couple of scenes the mask is in, it gets really old really quick because it's so, like, it looks like your high school mascot, you know, just wearing the head of their costume. That's what it looks like. It's just so stiff and unrealistic looking. It has absolutely no movement to it. When he's like drinking the blood, he's just pouring it into like the mask beak that just stays open. I feel like there's gotta be some old school puppet mechanics that can have the beak like opening and closing, or the head like turning a little bit, just to give it a little bit more movement and flow. But I did love like the bloody eyeballs and all that. The romantic arc of this movie is a little confusing, to be honest, because in the beginning, whenever he rescues Angel on the side of the road, you know, she brings him over to this like Friendsgiving party, and you know, they kind of come together. Even though they just met, it just seems like they were vibing off each other, you know, they were like had a little flirtationship going on. But then when he gets to the party, her sister Anne is like, that's my guy, I want that guy. And so she starts laying out her moves on him whenever Angel goes to the bathroom. But he takes her hand and moves that hand right off his lap. He's like, I'm not going to be tempted by you.
Well, God is a spirit. I think you have to go to the Holy Spirit to make that real to you.
I have a pretty girl waiting for me in the bathroom. Thank you very much. And at that point, I was like, yes, Herschel, yes.
He says, follow after the spirit, not the flesh.
But that doesn't last for very long, because pretty much Angel just disappears for the rest of the movie. You know, after she introduces him to her dad, it's like, oh, so Angel doesn't matter to you anymore? You got what you needed from Angel, and now you're just gonna forget about Angel until you're high and need her again?
In moments of great trouble, this appeal for help from a source that we play games with, scoff at, when things are going well.
Like, I really just don't like the way this man is, like, playing these sisters.
You know, I was trying to make him jealous. He wouldn't pay any attention to me.
It's just an unhealthy relationship dynamic, the way Anne is so obsessed with Herschel. Even whenever he has a turkey face, like, she still is like, what about our children?
What would the children think of their father looking like that?
Like, really, Anne? You're thinking about this now? You guys, like, just met and had a hookup, okay? Also, like, not being a good sister, stealing your sister's man. That's very Spencer from Pretty Little Liars of you.
I had a feeling I'm hooked. Hooked?
According to this movie, turkey chemicals are fine, but marijuana will get you addicted. Even though a lot of horror movies won't be, like, blatantly religious, they will still follow religious Christian values with like the drugs and the sex, and how the people who do the drugs and the sex get murdered in horror movies, that sort of thing. Blood Freak is a early parody of horror movies pushing religious beliefs. Angel, she's like quoting the Bible to her man Herschel, talking about how it's bad to do, you know, drugs, and adultery is fine to her, but drugs, no thank you.
What about adultery? Isn't that a sin?
He says we commit adultery with sticks and stones.
And that's what the movie's teaching us. The movie's whole moral lesson is to not do drugs. But, you know, it's very tongue-in-cheek because our narrator, the whole time is smoking a cigarette and hacking on his cigarette. And he's like, don't mix drugs in your body, kids. You know? I do think it's a parody. But also still giving a moral lesson. I don't know. Like, are they trying to scare kids into not doing drugs? Or are they just making fun of the horror movies that scare kids into doing drugs? Which one is it?
Allow the indiscriminate use of the human body as a mixing bowl for drugs and chemicals are as real as the real horror.
Either way, this movie made me want to smoke some dope, you guys. And so I did. And the movie was better for that. I really love the first half of this movie. It's very, like, small budget, handmade horror. I love that. I love those aspects, and I love how every single character, except for Anne, is a bad actor. And the worse actor in this movie, the better.
We gotta do something fast. That guy's dangerous. He could hurt somebody. Us.
My favorite characters are the two scientist guys.
Right now, we're not involved in anything. If we just split, like just what?
You mean right now, this very minute?
But my number one favorite character is Mr. Scientist Boss Daddy. I freaking love him. He has the worst acting skills, but it is just so freaking adorable. And everything he says, like...
All we did was give this guy some turkey.
He had a pretty big part, but I just wish that he was even more in it.
You didn't think, you dumb bastards, how could you let something like this happen?
This movie is very much 70s B-horror style gore. You know, lots of blood squishing out of different places, but the blood is very vibrant, unrealistic looking. To me personally, it was still pretty gruesome, honestly. The most gruesome part to me was whenever he had this woman strung upside down on a ladder and he slit her throat and she was like still screaming and alive with just like blood gushing into her eyeballs. That was pretty harrowing, even though it doesn't look very real. I'm just still like, ugh. There's another big scene. Ooh, this one is awesome. Mr. Turkey-headed Herschel gets this guy who tries to hurt Anne, strangles him, and then takes him on the table saw and his leg. And the guy wakes up and he's like, ah, my leg! And it's just like gushing blood everywhere. But the knee is like clearly a mannequin knee, you know, and it doesn't look super real, but with all the blood, like it's very, very still gross. You know, I don't like to see blood and hear people scream. But I actually did read that that guy's an amputee, and that's how they did the low budget horror stunt where he got his leg sawed off. It was like just like back to back to back to back to back, killing. At one point he did drink the blood of this girl who's just shot up heroin, and I was like, whoa, he's about to get fucked up off that heroin blood. But I don't know, maybe he did. It wasn't very clear. I mean, eventually he's like, oh, and passes out, but it's unclear if it's heroin blood related or just regular blood freak related. It's very, very relatable for me whenever Herschel is working on the turkey farm and sees all the turkey and they're like, gobble, 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 and he goes, gobble, 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 and then all the turkeys go, gobble, 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 together, and then there's just like a really longer than normal scene of him just like looking at all the turkeys and gobbling to them and then gobbling back to him. And honestly, that's the moment I was rooting for Herschel, because I too like to communicate with animals. For all my animal lovers out there, I will say, at one point, we see Herschel at the end of his nightmare hallucination get killed and eaten at Thanksgiving dinner. Whenever they do kill Herschel, it goes from us seeing Herschel with his man body, turkey head, but then we see like a turkey with its head chopped off, and that very much looks like a real dead turkey to me. So turkeys were harmed in the making of this. Just want to say, I'm a vegetarian, but we're rating this on the turkey scale. So I would give this movie 7 out of 10 turkeys. Because I still really enjoyed like all the bad acting, all the props. I really love Anne's character. But it has its slow moments. Like pretty much after we get the big Herschel turkey head reveal, like the killings and all the dialogue scenes after that are just kind of slow, not very like suspenseful. Yeah, that's why I gave it 7 out of 10 turkeys.